Welcome everyone to a brand new episode of the Jams D podcast, where we spin the jams and spill the tea. And today, we're going to be continuing the 1991 retrospective, and we are going to be covering the Red Hot Chili Peppers album, Blood Sugar Sex Magik.
Yes, and we also put out a record club a couple of days ago on Meatloaf's Bad Out of Hell that you should go and check out if you haven't already. This particular retrospective episode has been long awaited. For me anyway, just because we've talked about so many.
You've talked about it a whole lot.
Well, I don't think I have talked about it a whole lot, but what we've done is we've talked about a lot of bands that we kind of unequivocally love or have reasonably strong feelings about. We've talked about a couple of dark horses as well, but this has been an episode I've been looking forward to because this is a series about celebrating iconic moments in 1991 where the sound of popular music in all different facets, whether it's rock, hip hop, whatever, was pushed forward or was advanced in this new and exciting way. And Red Hot Chili Peppers is like, it's like it's like, no, it is all of those things, whether you like it or not, but it is an anathema to the tastes of this podcast. It is the kind of thing that we relish in mocking and making fun of, this kind of super ridiculous sort of hypersexual thing that it is. It's teed up for us to tear it a new asshole, frankly.
Where is it? Shit. So it's somewhere on here, but it says white.
Well, yes, that is a part of the problem, is that this is a very white record, and some of the things that some of the affectations.
We should mention, though, is that this isn't technically the first time we've mentioned or we've covered something with one of the members of this band, considering that they have played on August's favorite album of all time, Francis the Mute.
This is true.
Well, and that's a testament to Flea, or Frusciante. Which one is on Francis the Mute?
It's Flea.
It's Flea. Okay, I just know that Frusciante's super into prog stuff.
I have nothing but good things to say about Flea today.
I hope John Frusciante, because he is absolutely just fucking. The thing about Blood Sugar Sex Magik.
He's fucking.
The thing about Blood Sugar Sex Magik is that this is a record that's essentially teed up for us all to love in almost every respect, except for the most important respect, which is the whole fundamental character of this record and the central performance of Anthony Kiedis, which is
Rivers Cuomo in middle school is.
And I already know that I'm not going to be able to pitch or promo this to the Red Hot Chili Peppers subreddit or anything, because this video is not going to be something that will appeal to hardcore fans of the band, because we are essentially going to be talking a lot of shit about the Red Hot Chili Peppers, although it's more complicated than that, because I have complicated feelings on this record. I think it is kind of ridiculous and awful and over the top, but I also, against my worst instincts, have a lot of affection for a great deal of it as well. And
just as you need to preface it with that, I need to preface it with this, in that I, beyond the two most popular singles on this album, have never listened to a Red Hot Chili Peppers album before and have not heard anything beyond those two songs whatsoever. And Tyler, in preparation to this, always said this is going to be a fun segment. He never alluded as to what he actually thought of the quality of this album. So I went in with as open a mind as humanly possible when I went into this. So keep in mind, I wasn't prepared to be here's my take about the Red Hot Chili Peppers. No, I just went in to be all right, let's do this. And I'm pretty sure August is the same.
I'm of course a fan of things certain musicians on this album have contributed to, quite obviously. I would have worn my Mars Volta shirt, but that is in the wash, as they say. I was fully teed up for whatever the hell this was going to be.
Yeah, and I think it is worth mentioning that
the only member of this podcast that provably does their laundry.
Yeah, I think it is worth mentioning as well that, I think that Flea and Frusciante are two of the best people to ever play their respective instruments. And I think that if you want a showcase of why that is, this record is as good as any. I do think that, so the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I do think the Red Hot Chili Peppers are, well, their fame and their consistent popularity has been particularly interesting, especially considering the way that their career has, the career trajectory has panned out. They started as more of a sort of heavy metal sounding band. They pared back a lot of that specifically for this record to go in a more funk driven direction, which came to, I guess, define the Red Hot Chili Peppers sound. Although they have, to their credit, made records that are a little more, I guess, diverse and strange and unusual and more, I guess, mellow than this as well. But I think that in terms of everything that makes the Red Hot Chili Peppers, in terms of everything that makes them the band they are and the moment that they had at their peak, Blood Sugar Sex Magik is the Red Hot Chili Peppers album. I know some people will make a case for Californication. I know some people will make a case for other records that they put out in the 90s or the early 2000s. But to me, unquestionably, the Red Hot Chili Peppers begins and kind of ends also at Blood Sugar Sex Magik, which is not to say they don't have other really good songs, which is not to say they don't have other albums that are fine, but I've never really had any kind of emotional response to anything the Red Hot Chili Peppers have done outside of this album. And even then, my emotional response to this album is a complicated one that is tinged with layers of just guilt and strange feelings about enjoying this record and emotions tied up with the ways in which I've experienced this record growing up. So yeah, and we'll try and, I guess, get into that and unpack why this record has the appeal that it does and why the exact things that make this record appealing to the people who love it are the exact things that I suspect drive Jake and August up the wall whenever they have to listen to this thing, which is a curious dynamic for an album to have, right? The things that make it so exciting and great and fresh can also be the things that completely sour it for a lot of people. And I know I'm going to wax lyrical about how I think amazing this record sounds, how much gusto is put into the instrumental performances, how absolutely stunning the rhythm section is. And that's not just Flea as well, that goes for drummer Chad Smith, who on a number of the tracks here is absolutely fucking just killing it. Frusciante makes you believe, if you'd ever lost hope in the sheer ingenuity and power of the guitar solo, then Frusciante has enough fucking balls here to make you believe in it again. And yeah, there's just so much to enjoy about the way this record sounds and the impact of these really sticky funk compositions with often quite heavy riffs, but also a real sense of weight within them. And that has, in large part, thanks to Rick Rubin. We have kind of talked about Rick Rubin off and on throughout the series of this podcast. We've talked about how, sometimes we're not a fan of the things that he does. Magnetic. We've talked about how sometimes he can absolutely be a perfect fit for the right band, as in our System of a Down review that we did very recently. But yeah, he's the perfect fit, I think, here to accentuate the weight of the Red Hot Chili Peppers and everything that makes them such compelling performers. But all of that said, which I think that, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for August or Jake, but I think that at least some of what I've said in terms of the weight and heft of these compositions, you'd have to agree with. But I know that
about to say, I agree with basically everything you just said.
So that said, I also know that you two hate this album. And so I want to jump straight into why you hate this record, what your response was to this record, since I know that this is a newer record to both of you than it is to me. What your initial response was to this record, what you make of it, and why you feel the way that you do.
Taking notes for this, because I knew that above all other weeks, I was going to need notes for these two 1991 albums, because I needed to get my thoughts as definitively down as possible. So reading the notes I have taken for this album as I took them looks like you're looking into the diary of a person slowly losing their mind. And it's strange just because the album starts off so, like, at least for what it is, very unassumingly. I was just sort of like the Power of Equality, the opener, which is just sort of broadly like, not a huge fan of the vocal presence on here, not also a huge fan of the lyricism. We'll get into why in a little bit, I'm sure. And I'm definitely going to save some material for August because boy howdy, I sure know he's probably got some. That said, I really, really like the instrumental presence on here. It's as Tyler said, it's propulsive, it's rhythmic, it's also just very, very obviously impressive. Like I've never listened to an album that is so easy to recognize what is great about the playing itself. And sort of if you have to ask following that up, I sort of had kind of the same thoughts. A strange note between the two of them is that on the previous song, I'm pretty sure there's a lyric that says "lick my finger," and on this album, or on this song, I'm pretty sure it says "suck my thumb." And it's like I don't want to have my mouth near the appendages of any member of the Red Hot Chili Peppers at any time ever. So please, no, I'm good, thanks. And sort of you have Breaking the Girl, which I think is one of the better songs on the album, kind of coming in to break up the pacing a little bit, just because the last two songs were kind of samey. And then the album just decides to stay in the exact same mode it started in for all 74 minutes of its runtime. 17 tracks. I can almost say without fail that my favorite songs and moments on here are the moments where they break away from the core of their sound. And there's about, I think in their totality, if I'm going to be generous and not exaggerate, there's probably about 4 songs here that genuinely decide to shake things up a bit. The remaining 13 songs, I feel like I'm Morgan talking about Sear. Again, it's not that bad, and don't misunderstand me, but they're the exact same song. Like, it becomes impossible to differentiate these songs only by the merit of the instrumentals, which are consistently the best thing about the album. You can try to do it by the lyrics, but the thing is the only way I'm able to enjoy this album is if I completely fucking ignore them. There are some moments where Kiedis's vocals definitely grate on me more than others. There are other moments on the album, like on the single Under the Bridge, where he utilizes them to pretty great effect, honestly. But it's either because of the vocals, because of the lyrics, for one reason or another, you just kind of have to treat it as wallpaper, and you have to focus on those instrumentals, and it is mind-numbing. It's great because, again, every song still consistently, of all things, this album's problem for me resembles that of most of Radiohead's Pablo Honey, where each individual song, I don't really think any of them are really bad. They're certainly not as instrumentally proficient as anything here, but I don't think any of those songs are bad, and I enjoy most of that album in isolation. But when you put all of those songs together in one album, oh my God, it's a slog. There's no other way to put it. And if anything about this album, if anything about these songs even slightly bothers you, they're going to bother you a hell of a lot more once you get to even the halfway point. Like, at one point, I just started taking notes about the individual songs, and some of them I'm just like, every song on here is like 4 minutes plus. Why in God's holy name are, like, some of these songs need to be 2 minutes long, and then, like, we're working with something. If you cut this album maybe in half, I think you can probably, is it going to be instrumentally a little bit samey? Yes, but it's going to take away so much of the repetition. I mean, this is like mid-career Iron Maiden levels of chorus repeat, chorus repeat, chorus repeat, chorus repeat, and it's so fucking obnoxious. And again, there are moments. Breaking Up the Girl, there's like a moment here where I want to say there's like, is there woodwinds in this song?
It's actually a mellotron.
Okay, well, see, that shit is cool. Occasionally there'll be an instrumental idea that'll just come way the fuck out of left field, and it'll just be like, oh, something. It's basically putting salt on white bread at this point, which is weird because, like, the actual style of this, like the funk and metal and rock and all of this, is a unique combo. And I can totally see why this album was the album that it was in 1991, because I bet you that anything that broke into the mainstream did not sound like this, or just like it had crossover appeal that anything that sort of orbited this world simply just didn't have. And I bet that that was really refreshing to a lot of people, because as loath as I am to admit it, this is a 30-year-old album that, you know, it sounds certainly a little bit ahead of its time. I certainly can't think of anything in the late 80s that would be comparable to this that would have, you know, charted. And this album has two, I'll throw my hands up in the air, pretty great singles. I think that I'm not going to lie and say that I think that the fact that the singles being some of the most, well, one of the singles is nothing like the rest of the album. Another single is exactly like the rest of the album. But that's the thing, is that when most people were exposed to that single, they weren't surrounded by the remaining 60 whatever minutes of it. They were just like, wow, this is a sound that's probably like, it's really interesting. It's, you know, the funk element is really what keeps this going and keeps it alive. It's energetic all the way through, and the performances are committed, the performances are passionate. It's easy to see why anybody would like this album. It is simply a testament to the format of the album as an art, as like a medium of expression, that like it goes to show you what's important about music, because people, I think, could sometimes take for granted, like, oh, you know, an album is just a collection of songs. And it's like, well, in the strictest sense, maybe, but how you arrange those songs, the songs that you pick in question, the sequencing of said songs, the length of those songs, every single element that is about an album on this, all of it sucks. Every single way this can be a record, it is working against itself. If you take it apart, I think it can work, but I'm doing my best here to meet it a little bit halfway, but oof. It's got moments, and I'm gonna let August take on some of the perhaps more interesting approaches to stuff, let's say thematically, lyrically even, and I'm sure he's even got complaints that I don't, because I know for a fact that he definitely dislikes this more than I do. But it's really just like, if you're a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan and you're watching this, and it's like, don't feel too terribly dispirited, or try not to, just because
I'm going to be sticking up for this, so don't worry if you're a fan out there.
Sure. I don't even, like, the vast majority of these, like, you know, especially in the first half of the album, I'd say it's like, you know, we're at a consistent batting average of like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 song. And then just by the time you're halfway through, it's like, it doesn't matter about the quality of the songs. They're all 4 minutes, 5 minutes long and change. And then for whatever goddamn reason, I thought when I first consumed this record that it was 14 songs long, because that's still an ungodly amount of time for this record to be. And then I looked down and was like, there's 3 more fucking songs here. And then when you're like, please God, just let this end. If this is just 2 more 4-minute songs, whatever the fuck, cool. I've been enduring this for however long. This is only a fraction of time. And then of all things, you look down and you're like, why is this 8.5 minutes? And the song's called Sir Psycho Sexy? No! Actually,
the fucking ACAB anthem of 1991.
I literally just have Sir Psycho Sexy, 4 out of 10 written next to it. 8 minutes in all caps with question marks.
It is in fact in all caps.
The quote, this is the quote for Blood Sugar Sex Magik, in my opinion, and I know Tyler knows the exact lyric I'm thinking of, which is, devil in my dick, demons in my semen. And also there's the part where he says says something about like fucking her so hard make her feel like an overachiever, which just that is the only part of the song that makes me just genuinely laugh. It's just really funny.
Wait, what the fuck?
But this song is also like the reason that it doesn't get the skirt by on humor is A, the length, and B, the fact that it's like the instrumental itself, compared to even the rest of the album, it's so plotting and like nothing happens in it. it's so fucking, it's like, and then like I to cap off my broad feelings here for the final song on here, They're Red Hot, which I have at a decent 5 out of 10. My only note for it is, if this song was any longer, I would kill myself.
Okay, look, I'm so glad that you're as passionate in your hatred as you are, because it makes for a great piece of counterpoint here. Because I don't fuck anybody.
I'm really holding back here because I can't wait, because I know August and I are gonna have some moments of camaraderie. Like, I need to assure the viewers here that, like, I'm espousing, at least in the popular music canon, I'm going to voice some incredibly unpopular opinions today. And when August, of all people, was just like, no, I agree with you, I was like, yes. What? Damn it.
Okay, so big, I think, thing to keep in mind, I guess, as well, when we talk about these records, is that August and Jake, and this is not to say that their opinions would necessarily be different in a different situation, but August and Jake have encountered this record very recently for the purposes of this retrospective, consuming it out of obligation, essentially. Which is not to say they wouldn't check it out in their own time anyway, but fundamentally, you guys are listening to this record because we have to review it, because I decided it should be in this retrospective. And the thing is that's, I'm coming at this from the perspective of, this record's been in my life since I was a teenager. And it's actually it's similar, not the same sort of thing, because I love the Meatloaf album, but it's not dissimilar to what we did with the Meatloaf album, where it's like, that's an album I used to hate as a teenager and now I love. And this is a record where I used to really hate this record the way that you did. But
Damn.
over the years,
I want to imagine you as a teenager just going around like your high school going, give it away, give it away, give it away now.
I mean, I like that song mostly because it has a really funny parody by Weird Al. But
yes, it does. You showed us that.
I found this overbearing and weirdly intimidating as a teenager to listen to, and kind of, and that was a point where I couldn't even really appreciate what was happening rhythmically or musically either. I was just like, this is just okay. This is like not for me.
The album is longer than the Civil War.
And that's also a contributing factor as well. But over the years, I won't say that I've forgiven all of my misgivings with this record, because I still think that fundamentally the Red Hot Chili Peppers are a flawed proposition. But fundamentally, I think some of the ridiculousness of this album, particularly the moments where it really leans into it, have this kind of just gloriously goofy appeal. And also, there are also equally moments of tenderness on this record as well that I find surprisingly affecting. Under the Bridge being one, but I would also shout out I Could Have Lied as another moment on this record.
That's one of the other songs I have very positively rated.
So there's those moments where I think Kiedis's range as a performer are the rare moments where his actual range becomes shown, and that range he would develop more on subsequent Chili Peppers records. Like, for the most part, this record is not really about range. It is about perfecting, or distilling, if you don't like the word perfecting, distilling this particular funk style that the Peppers have. That's very in vogue at the time. I mean, you can only look at other bands like Faith No More, for instance. I think that we haven't reviewed a Faith No More record, but I reckon if we did, everyone would be pretty positive on it. And so that, I think, is an interesting distinction that I'll try and maybe pick up later, is what
thought of other Mike Patton projects that we have covered. I mean, I thought of California multiple times on this, because I can totally hear the similarities there, at least the funk incorporations, the metal incorporations. That's very broadly similar. Yeah.
And so this record is so over the top and so ridiculous that at certain points I'm just kind of like, it's so entertaining to me up to a point. There's a ceiling to the amount to which it entertains me, but it is for the most part so entertaining to me that I find myself just giggling with glee when I listen to it, particularly moments like in the second track, "If you have to ask," which I can't do that falsetto very well, but I love
neither can Kiedis.
What I love is, I love how he has, there are these moments on this record where Kiedis will do this really awful, like, monotone spoken word verse thing where he'll just like be talking, think about like that for
Oh
like
my
ever.
God.
It feels like an eternity. And when he does that,
Fucking funk metal boomhauer.
and then he goes into the chorus and he's like, "Funky motherfuckers will not be going home," or whatever he says. It's like
It's not even funny how I would prefer this album if you were the vocalist doing exactly what you just did.
The comparison between like those sort of understated spoken word vocals and the funky motherfuckers part just absolutely sends me. Like I just love that shit so much. Kiedis has this unique way of sounding equally intense and captivating as a performer, but also like weirdly toothless as well. Like
That's such a strange line he rides.
He has this brittleness to the way he performs, which is not necessarily poorly suited to funk performance, but also rings hollow at certain points in the way that vocalists with a little more gravitas don't. So as a result of this, he comes off like a parody of a funk vocalist. And this is getting towards the level on which I most enjoy Red Hot Chili Peppers, which is as this weird kind of excessive, over the top, not satire, because I think that's giving it too much credit, but almost like parody of its influences. And not in a sense that it's kind of like mocking all of these points of reference that it borrows from, but it's like this loving celebration of them by taking them to this ridiculous extent and making this 70-minute, admittedly incredibly bloated, which I think they would be the first to kind of agree. And they've made more bloated records than this, if you can believe that.
The appeal of this album is the appeal of the film Southland Tales in almost every respect.
Well, yeah.
So you know what, Tyler? I understand, because I love that movie and it sucks.
It's like that, and the hypersexuality is not just a subtext like it is in that movie. It's the text. It is turned up to 500,000, and it's literally like it's literally like a fucking Gaspar Noé put a fucking camera on the dick and fucking film the penetration, sort of excessive levels of sexual overkill on this record. But also
sexual overkill sounds like a B-side to this album.
Also, there's this other aspect to the record I love, or I don't. Love is the wrong record. There's this other aspect of the record that I find hilarious, which is this weird, like, social subtext, like commentary thing that Kiedis will occasionally do. Like he's sandwiching these songs about fucking and coming in between these songs that have this real kind of like sincere social edge to them. Like, for instance,
starts off with a song called "The Power of Equality."
Yeah, and again, like, it's almost parodic, like the part where he's like, "People in pain, I do not dig it." It's like it's like and again, I think he's leaning into the, you know, a gentle bit of mockery, because I think there's no way in hell he's playing lines like, "I've got tapes, I've got CDs, I've got my public enemy, my lily white ass is tickled pink when I listen to the music that makes me think." He's obviously taking the piss with lines like that. Like, and it's obviously a bit of it's a bit of a fucking piss take, and I respect and like that element of it. But honestly, even if it wasn't a piss take, even if he was just doing this really over the top, like, stupid sexual thing, it would still be deliriously entertaining to me. And I love the ways in which he kind of takes this sort of hippie aesthetic of earlier decades and hypersexualizes it to have this weird melting pot of just so hyper masculine that it becomes like weirdly unmasculine, and it becomes like cartoonish. And I guess I enjoy it in the same way that I enjoy like a cartoon. That said, there are other moments on this record that I find genuinely strong that don't necessarily rely on these over-the-top aspects of Kiedis' songwriting. I think my favorite song on this record is "Breaking a Girl," which I think is one of the best Chili Peppers songs. Really, really strong work from every member of the band. The rhythm section in this song is actually made up of metal debris that the band sourced from a local junkyard. And again, it's a testament to Rubin's production that you can't really hear that, but you can hear the weird kind of off-kilter sound that it has. It's busy, it's layered, it's addictive. Chad Smith is going nuts. Flea is absolutely killing it. The aforementioned mellotron in the song is just an absolutely genius touch. I don't know whose idea it was, but it adds such a flavor to the song that I absolutely love. And it's another moment on the record like I Could Have Lied, where Kiedis is kind of reflecting on his relationships with women in a way that is about more than just the sexual aspect. It's about, I guess, the emotional component. And it's still kind of stupid and a little bit cheesy and stuff, but I think there is a genuine
If it wasn't,
tenderness.
it would stick out more, which is weird because I'm arguing against something being traditionally good.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. There is, of course, Under the Bridge as well, which is a pretty timeless song. Like, I don't even really need to listen to it anymore when I listen to this album, although of course it is a pleasure to put on because it is a great song. It's again a moment where Kiedis reveals this really soulful aspect to his voice that he has. And he's surprisingly, I mean, again, if you've heard much of the other Chili Peppers work, that he's leaned into this more and more, but the soulful aspect that he has is particularly surprising when it turns up on this record in the context of the yelping and all the sort of other stuff that he's doing. And I also do think that it's, again, fundamentally kind of ridiculous. It's a little bit over the top as well. There's a melodrama in the way that Kiedis sings, but there's also a kind of tenderness as well. And I think that this record is, and moments like this are great demonstrations of the way in which melodrama and tenderness, or, you know, cartoonish hyper performance and genuine emotional soulfulness are not necessarily these mutually exclusive, distinct things. They can be integrated together. And that's something that I'm really fond of. And I Could Have Lied as well. It is a song about Kiedis's relationship with Sinead O'Connor. And it is, it comes at the nice moment in the record for a song like this. It also has this really great ripping solo from Frusciante that comes in at the end of the track, and it's almost like ripping a hole in the fabric of the song. And it's really just, it's completely, like, it's so abrasive, and it completely, like, just totally throws off the rest of the track, but it doesn't derail it. It just kind of feels like this beautiful grace note for all the emotion that Kiedis is summoning in it through his performance. And yeah, I love that shit so much. I think the riff of Suck My Kiss is hard as fuck.
It is.
That is like what some of Frusciante's most like fucking balls to the wall in your face work. I love that aspect of it. Again, I actually like this song quite a bit. I think it's relative to other moments on the record, it hits that balance of ridiculousness and genuine heft and weight really, really well. And it's also one of Rick Rubin's crowning moments on this album as a producer, because the band is just so intense and loud and going into it on this track, and he makes them all sound distinct and brilliant. Like, you have Flea's bass work again is timeless and incredible and really creative. He hilariously said that he, if anything, toned down his the extravagance of his playing for this album, which I think is a decent suit, because you can hear moments where he's playing in a more sort of restrained way that is adding to the soulfulness, versus moments like Give It Away, where he's just kind of going, he's just kind of going all over the fretboard and doing nutso stuff, and it suits that vibe there. But Suck My Kiss is just a fucking howler of a track. The weird thing about it, and I guess a lot of the tracks on the record like it, is that the thing that holds it back the most from being properly great is the sort of the thing that's really at the center of it, which is Kiedis himself. And the ironic thing about it is that what he's doing on this track is exactly what the music on this track is made for. Like, he is perfectly in tune with what the music on this record is all about. Like, he matches the energy and the verve, and he gets the tone of it completely right. So it's a weird place for me to be put in, where he's perfect for the song, and yet I just wish he wasn't there. It's not that he's unbearable to listen to. It's just that he has a kind of tunelessness and a kind of brittle, again, lack of gravitas that makes it difficult for him to remain engaging for a longer period of time. And also, I think this is the crucial part, limits his range as a funk and rhythm focused vocalist. I mean, that said, though, Suck My Kiss does still go really hard. I mean, I would describe what Frusciante is doing on this song as bullshit. How the fuck is it legal? It sounds like a sex crime, and yet I would like him to do it to me again, please. That's the tone of it.
Give it away now.
And I guess to cycle back to the weird sort of social aspect of this record, you have a song like "The Righteous and the Wicked," which is Kiedis's anti-war song. Again, it has killer riffs. The rhythm section is incredibly well tuned and hard hitting.
But the solo, 2/3 of the way through this song, fucking spectacular shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, the lyricism here, honestly, is also not a million miles away from something like a Mr. Bungle. When you have lines like "Holy Mother Earth crying into space, tears on her pretty face, for she has been raped, killing your future blood, fill her with disease, global abortion, please, that is what she needs." It's very like on the nose sort of commentary and shit, but it's like the kind of stuff that other bands would make more entertaining in the years to come, and would do so without having to say lines like "Headstrong battle song, exploding souls be gone, Marvin Gaye, my love, where did we go wrong?"
The Marvin Gaye shout. I was sitting at a desk when this happened, and I just went, and I had to fucking cut my mouth so that no one would see me giggling my oh god, it's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
They snuck a Saoirse pun on this album.
How did they do this? Then you have some of the moments on this record that are kind of less forgivably ridiculous. I have to ask the question of what the fuck is Kiedis even trying to do vocally on the song Funky Monks? Which
God.
Again, I don't hate, but I hate certain aspects of it. Like, I hate what Kiedis is doing basically throughout this entire track. Like, can I get a little loving from you? Can I get a little bit of that done did do? He has this affectation when he sings, like he's trying to do this like blues voice that and he's just like really bad at it. Like it just ends up sounding like a real sort of parody, the way he kind of drops off syllables and sounds from words to affect this kind of bluesy tone that he just mauls. There are these vocal harmony parts.
Is not so good.
There are these vocal harmony parts that'll come in like he's doing, and they sound really spare and bare and out of place in the song. But thankfully you have this, I mean, again, Frusciante saves this track with the solo that rips through it halfway through. Chad Smith absolutely pounds the drum kit. It comes in just in time to lift up the track, but then doesn't last long enough to rescue it, unfortunately. That said, Flea is doing everything you would hope Flea to be doing in a song called Funky Monks. It's hard for me to get too mad. I do, again, lean on the side of enjoying this in spite of its really egregious elements. Although that said, it's very difficult to forgive lines like more rockin' now, doobly doo. Yeah, dancing down your avenue. Like, I'm just...
God, it's so funny that you mentioned all this too, because it's like, on the one hand, if you replaced Kiedis with Mike Patton, undoubtedly a better album. Well, but also not so much so that it really changes much at all. Frankly, I might up my score by like 1 point.
Well, the thing is, Mike, there's a couple of reasons why I think this would be an amazing, because I'm going to give this a 6, but I think this would be an 8 at least for me if Patton was on it instead of Kiedis. And I'm going to tell you 2 reasons why. One is that obviously Kiedis has much more limited range than Patton, and it's not even that he doesn't have range in general, it's just that he stays in a single sort of register or a single kind of jokey tonality that he does vary a little bit, but it's still like this very brittle sound that he's in for 80% of this record. Whereas Patton is, as we have talked about on this podcast multiple times, one of the most virtuosic and powerhouse vocalists of all time, who can do fucking anything and make it sound amazing. So, and if Patton was on this, he would be using his range in a way that Kiedis is not as much. And it also, he wouldn't be writing the way that Kiedis does. When we compare Kiedis and Patton, we don't give Patton enough credit in the sense that Patton writes really with really surreal songwriting. He has this really kind of like cut up way of putting together sentiments and words and absolutely absurd ideas and getting through to the truth and the heart of the music, and through that way, rather than just this very kind of two-dimensional thing that's often quite parodic that Kiedis does. So there's a really distinct approach to how these two artists convey ideas, I guess, if we're going to think about what this band would sound like with someone like Mike Patton. And I mean, there's really no point imagining that hypothetical either, because what Mike Patton does do is, like, we've got plenty of great shit from him. Like Faith No More is amazing. Mr. Bungle is amazing.
Again, I say it's just basically what we're talking about. It's like California is if Mike Patton was the lead of this and also wrote all the songs.
Yeah. And like, I'm sure there's people out there who probably are much bigger fans of this album than even I am, who could probably give a defense of this record that doesn't involve so much. Yeah, I know, but. And I would love to hear from those people. And
of course.
So I guess I'll wrap up what I have to say by talking about a couple of songs that represent, I suppose, the heart of how I feel about this record. And songs that both get a decent amount of hate. I've seen get a decent amount of hate. And I can't say not for good reason, considering that these songs are Kiedis at his most sex-obsessed and unabashedly, ridiculously over the top. But there's almost like a ceiling that he breaks through on these tracks in particular, a level to which he goes so over the top with it that it becomes enjoyable for me as sheer parody, whether intended or not. And I can't rule out that it's intended. I think there is a definite reading you could give to some of these songs being downright purposefully parodic. I've already touched on some of that with certain lyrics. The first of these two songs is the title track, which is riff central yet again. I mean, the riffs are fucking amazing, frankly. I find it riotously entertaining, especially because Frusciante has obviously some really squalling, distorted solos on this record, and his guitar lead on the song is distorted and nuts and awful and aggressive and just totally gnarly. But when he hits a solo on this track, it sounds beautifully smooth and like harmonic, and it's just a great moment of inversion where he goes from, instead of just being squalling and loud in the solo, he goes to making a really smooth solo and having the rest of the song be an absolute noise fest. I love how essentially the riffs that Frusciante is laying down in the song are essentially what Tom Morello would base his whole career on, in my opinion. This is the ground zero for that sort of style, and it's absolutely perfection. The entire band is going so hard into making this, and what I love about it as well is this song is mid-tempo. It's not like a fucking ballistic track. It's mid-tempo. It's a stomp. It's a storm, and I get caught up in it, especially when shit gets really chaotic towards the end. Even if, again, I think that definitely in this case as well, Kiedis is the weakest part of it. But the song I have even more affection for, that's probably even harder to justify, but also part of it is the fact that it is the most over the top this record goes. Like, it's so over the top that it circles back around to being understated almost in the weird scope of this entire record. And that is Sir Psycho Sexy, which is the most overblown and frankly awful thing on this record. And yet, like, this is the point where it really feels like Kiedis and the rest of the band, especially when you have that really absurd squelching synth in this song that sounds like so fucking garish. I genuinely think they're making a fucking piss take song here. I think maybe it's a parody of Prince or something, or maybe it's just a parody of hypermasculine sexuality and rock performers in general. Either way, there's plenty of that to be making fun of at this time when you consider this is the golden age of Guns N' Roses that we're living through. But either way, this track is so fucking funny. This track is like when I listen to this song, no matter how many times I hear it, I still laugh at least like 3 or 4 times in this song. And the rest of it, I have this goofy smile on my face. There is so many just absolutely ridiculous moments in this track that I can't get enough of, frankly. The weird intonation on certain lines, like "he demand that I met one time," just fucking kills me. The aforementioned line about having a devil in my dick and demons in my semen, big like Tenacious D vibes, frankly, and I could tell that they borrowed a whole heap from this record and this song in particular. I love this one part in this verse where he's like, "Believe me, Eve, she gave good reason. Booty." He's like, he just says booty for no reason at the end of the line. And it's like Lonely Island shit. I lose my mind. His description of his girl having a creamy beaver hotter than a fever is like, is so fucking awful that it's kind of dizzying. That overachiever line is so fucking amazing. I can't believe it's real. I love just the way this verse opens as well.
Song and was a fan, or like is like, hey, this guy, he's like hot or whatever. They hear that and then their ovaries shrivel up and die inside them.
Totally, like, and again, I fully believe that Kiedis knows what he's doing, like especially the way he sets this song out like a fucking fairy tale. A long time ago, he says long 4 times for no reason. It's fucking comedy, and the way he kind of sets off the second verse with like deep inside the Garden of Eden, this biblical imagery, and then the next line is standing there with my heart on bleeding. It's like, it's total fucking it's just like it's so fucking ridiculous.
Similar moment on the song Apache Rose Peacock, which has one of my favorite lines on the album, which is, "My eyes popped out, my dick got hard, and I dropped my jaw."
Yeah, literally, that's like a fucking Looney Tunes, right? You're picturing the fucking Wile E. Coyote.
Auga.
Literally. But then we have to get to the third verse of this song, the infamous cop verse of this song, where Kiedis describes being pulled over by a female police officer, and you can see where the story is going to go.
Regrettably.
Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say that I think that Kiedis is writing an ACAB verse here. He's obviously not, but I think that it's very funny to read this verse through the lens of our current like ACAB era culture where we live in. This verse where Kiedis is pulled over by a female police officer, then sexually assaulted, essentially, although he's very welcoming of it. And then it becomes this reciprocal encounter where he essentially in the most fun, like, problematic aspects aside, the most funny line delivery of this entire album is when he describes this female police officer stuck my butt with her big black stick, and then I said, "What's up? Now suck my dick." Like, it's just, and again, if you haven't heard it, me saying it does not convey the experience of the way he delivers these lines. It's truly unreal. Like a ram getting ready to jam the lamb.
The guy that Anthony, or the girl Anthony Kiedis fucked in Sir Sexy Psycho.
If I may, I feel like y'all are making all of this up at this point. I wish it sounds real.
I wish I was. My favorite, well, no, that's my favorite line in the verse, but I also want to give a particular shout out to, I swatted her like no SWAT team can. Turned a cherry pie right into jam. Like, he is the like.
God. Oh God!
He finds ways to like he finds ways to make sex sound utterly disgusting, and
Yes.
and I'm like, and again, I think that's part of the appeal of the song, is just how absolutely ridiculously over the top it is when he's when he's absolutely pleading this pretty punk rock mama that he wants to be held naked in her arms and her legs and her pussy. It's literally just so over the top. And then this moment where he like tries to get all poetic with it as well, when he talks about descending waves of graceful pleasure. For your love, there is no measure. Her curves, they bend with subtle splendor. Like everything about this. And then the final verse where he lays down the iconic line, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the funk will make me freak. And then follows it with the most incredible rhyme of all time. If I should die before I waked, allow me, Lord, to rock out naked. Like he what are you doing? Rhyming naked with waked.
A lot of heroin.
A lot of heroin, a lot of cocaine, whatever. Yeah. So this song is like, I can't deny it's terrible, but I also can't deny it's one of the most entertaining things I've heard in a long time. And ever since my childhood, when I first heard it and I was like completely bewildered by it, I have had this grudging affection for how ridiculously over the top it is. And I think in any other context, it would be more enjoyable. I can see why it's kind of difficult to really process, because it comes at the tail end of this absolute shitstorm of feature length proportions. But in many ways, like, it almost begs for placement on a record like this, in a place like this as well, because it's like the perfect encapsulation of the excess of this entire thing, right? It's the capstone that sums up the whole fucking journey that you've been on by taking it to its most extreme point. That said, though, I can't deny that basically everything from Naked in the Rain to My Lovely Man is filler. It's basically filler. And I do think the record would be stronger, even in spite of my feeling that its excesses are one of its great strengths. I do think it would still be stronger if that was trimmed down a little bit. And there is a certain point where I do get really fatigued with it, even the aspects of the record that I enjoy, because you can't have too much of a good thing. That's another thing to remember as well. And I also think that, yeah, Dear Red Hot is a shitty little skit that should not have been at the end of this record, and kind of bugs me, to be honest, because I whatever.
Okay, so Blood Sugar Sex Magik, certainly a title. And what I will say in this album's defense, because while I will be shitting on this thoroughly, I have a couple things I enjoy about it. I really do think a lot of the guitar moments on here are really funny, really goofy. Those work out really well. John Frusciante, great guitarist. Flea, great bassist. The drummer, also pretty good.
Chad Smith.
Chad Smith.
The whitest name of all time.
Name.
Yeah. So, and you know, Breaking the Girl, that's a song where I think the theatrical over the topness of the album works in its favor in a rare enough moment on here.
It's me, I'm the girl.
Yeah. And Under the Bridge, a generally really fantastic, kind of almost sweet song in another rare kind of strange out of place moment. And these nice words may fool you for a moment, but yeah, the rest of this I find obnoxious. Let's start with Funky Monks.
Yes.
Funky Monks is
what a disappointing
longest
track.
This is the longest song ever created by a human.
Can I get a little bit of that dum did do?
No,
you
can't.
This song's runtime is what starts to break me here. That these songs individually, I could not care if there are 17 songs, some on here, but if some of them were just paced, I could enjoy it. And this song just goes on without end. It ends with this masturbatory battle between instruments that I wish I could enjoy, but generally I find a lot of it's so overbearing and insistent upon itself. This fucking album.
More rock and more rock
I
and
do
now
not
do
care for Blood
do.
Sugar Sex Magik.
Oh my gosh. And we've got our lead discount flea market Rivers Cuomo, whatever.
See, it's interesting to me that you call him Discount Rivers Cuomo, because I was talking with Jake before about like he's very like a lot of comparisons get drawn between the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Faith No More. And
no, I don't say that on a vocal level. I say that on a physicality level.
sure,
How he
Yeah.
looks, how he dresses.
sure.
It is, yeah. No, admittedly, Faith No More is a much more accurate comparison. And notably, I am not a huge Faith No More fan either. So
Oh, really? That surprises me.
Surprising.
I find a lot of the funk elements on here to just be so overplayed and over present in a way where it's somehow people being so in a mix of so incredibly genuine, but also it feels like this complete pastiche. It feels disingenuous in its presentation to me. It was this weird kind of conflict in my mind where I can definitely understand that the people crafting this music do have a talent for what they're writing, but it's the production of it, the presentation of it that makes it feel so ridiculous and just unenjoyable for me. I think a perfect encapsulation of this was I Could Have Lied, which rather than just being the softer, like subtler, laid back track, which it could have easily been, it feels the need to have its drums mixed like atomic bombs dropping in your ears. And it completely kills what they were going for, I felt. And then of course there's Under the Bridge, nice song. But then we've got the tracks after that, the long run of completely superfluous songs. Although admittedly,
this whole segment of the record, now that you mention it, it should just end with Under the Bridge.
Well, I've already made my case for why I think that Sir Psycho Sexy is an essential song to this album.
No, admittedly though, these are also the moments of the album I enjoy the most in a twist of fate.
Oh,
not
Lord.
Because they're good, because they're horrendous. I like the opening verse on Apache Rose Peacock is horrendous. And it's amazing.
Yes, what you're getting at now is you're describing the exact appeal of this record to me. And in those moments anyway, those moments of the record
Those
like that.
Fucking silly ass horns on that song.
But let's talk.
What the fuck?
Let's go through this. Sitting on a sack of beans down in New Orleans. You won't believe what I've seen. Sitting on a sack of beans. Lunatics on pogo sticks. Another southern fried freak on a crucifix. Hicks don't mix with politics. People on the street just kicking to the licks.
She liked the looks of me and my Willie.
And this verse, like, what?
Fucking Merlin Wood saying, everybody want to suck my willy.
Exactly, it's the same energy.
But
I enjoy those two. I enjoy Merlin and I enjoy Anthony Kiedis on the exact same level.
Merlin Wood being the frontman of the Red Hot Chili Peppers makes them an infinitely better band.
Does it make it them a different band at all? Like, really?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't
Yes,
know. And when I say I enjoy this section the most, that is referring to like, this is the point in the record where I've stopped being annoyed and like a mental callus has formed over my brain to being impervious to this album's bullshit.
It's like when you take a little, like, it's like the fucking kings and lords and of old fucking taking poison little bits at a time to be able to make their body completely, it's like the equivalent of a vaccine where you get exposed to a little bit of the virus so your body can fight off the rest of what comes.
That's precisely what happens past Under the Bridge in this album for me, where I've just, you've broken me. I can deal with anything you want now. You could tack another 60 minutes onto this album at that point, and I could suffer through it, if only because I'm like, it's not getting any better. So
okay, well, August, I talked about it for about 5 to 10 minutes, but I have to know what you think of Sir Psycho Sexy, the masterpiece that is Sir Psycho Sexy.
Sir Psycho Sexy, I wish I didn't have to live in the same fucking reality as this song.
Yes.
This is the most horrendous shit ever, and I've listened to it more than anything else on this album. It is
Yes,
the
me
best
too.
form of fucking masochism ever.
You are fucking crazy people.
It is high comedy. It is one of the funniest pieces of any media in the entire 90s. It is an
Like
absolute.
Sam Neill at the end of In the Mouth of Madness.
It is a fucking comic juggernaut.
And the fact that it's like not, this was like a real song they put on the album and not like a joke.
Well, it is a joke. I'm 100%
Well,
confident this is a parody song.
No, yeah.
And that's kind of the appeal of it.
But like this isn't a parody song of Red Hot Chili Peppers. This is a Red Hot Chili Peppers song is kind of what I'm getting at.
Sure,
It's
yeah.
like,
Yeah, but it's obviously tongue in cheek. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
no. It's
but yeah.
it's kind of but that being said, it did not, the 8-minute runtime was still a little too much for me, despite this being this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I said before, like, it's the 8-minute runtime of Sir Psycho Sexy and everything that's contained within is like a microcosm for this whole album as a whole. Like, yeah, it goes on way too long. It's incredibly overblown. It's incredibly over the top. It makes incredibly questionable decisions on an incredibly consistent basis. And yet when the ridiculousness of all of that is absolutely tuned up to the maximum level, as it is on this kind of summation piece at the record, I think the appeal of it is clearer than ever. And so that's why I listen to this song so much, because I don't need the rest of the record. Under the Bridge and Breaking the Girl might as well be from a different fucking time. Who cares? They're great songs, but they don't, like, neither of them really get at the things that make this record enjoyable to me. And that is the Sir Psycho Sexy side of things. It's a nice bonus that the record has songs like those that I also enjoy, but
I could almost enjoy it though. I could almost appreciate it for that if there wasn't that stupid 1.5 minute long just piss take at the end.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
Which at that point, you are actively wasting my time at that point. I can't. And that's just what it was. This whole album was just an obnoxious waste of time. I hated it. Fuck you for making me listen to it. I'm gonna bomb the 1991 retrospective.
August is going to go back in time to cause 9/11 10
I'm gonna
years sooner than it actually
I'm gonna
happened.
fucking transform into Pepsi Ranger and blow this idea up.
I want August to listen to both parts of Use Your Illusion so that I can know whether he will think this or that is the worst album of 1991.
You know, if he treats the whole thing as a double album, I would say he would unquestionably think it's worse.
Well, it is. Both parts came out on the same day, so it's essentially a double album.
Yeah, he'd think it's worse.
But it's worth hearing because that was, I think, something we haven't, because we chose not to review Guns N' Roses in this retrospective because, God fucking help us if we did. But I think something we need to appreciate is that the biggest band of 1991 at the time, at least before Nirvana really blew up, was Guns N' Roses. They were bigger than Michael Jackson in 1991. And both of them had albums out that year. Guns N' Roses were the biggest rock band on the planet at that point, which is something we kind of struggled to really be able to comprehend. So yeah, it's a deliberate omission from this retrospective. Because I mean, if it were not like a 2-hour fucking album, maybe we would have reviewed it like this just to have a fun little video. But not happening. Anyway,
no.
Favorite tracks and ratings: Blood Sugar Sex Magik. Jake, why don't you lead us off?
3 favorite tracks. Under the Bridge. It's the only song here I have rated at above a 7. I'll also say Breaking the Girl, and this is the same energy as Tyler putting Catch a Fire on his 3 favorite tracks for the Toby Mac album, and I'm gonna say Suck My Kiss.
Well, no, Suck My Kiss is legitimately a good song. Fight me.
It's mostly good, but it's also just like, come on, Anthony. The low point on the record for me is in fact Sir Psycho Sexy, but I'm not gonna pick that one just because I feel like it's too easy, and also it's like, I don't know, something about that song. It's just like, even though I genuinely don't like it, it feels like I mean, like, this is like shoving a kid in a wheelchair into traffic if I pick this song. So I'm gonna pick
On what level is it comparable to that?
Use your fucking illusion. Figure it out. I don't know. Fucking 4 out of 10.
Fair enough. August.
Oh, fuck me. I gotta pick 3 favorites off of this.
I'm gonna say Anthony Kiedis will.
Well, no, he's far too straight.
You can you can do the Morgan thing if you want and do 3 least favorites.
This album is so fucking hetero. It makes me want to fucking suck a dick.
That's you just put into words a feeling I was trying to put into words about this album earlier, and I couldn't do it right, and that's exactly it. It's so straight, it makes you want to suck a dick.
Yeah. Under the Bridge. Fucking Breaking the Girl, and I guess Sir Psycho Sexy, if only because I can remember it. As for fucking least favorite, I guess I'm gonna go with I gotta pick Funky Monks, just because that's the moment when I knew it was not savable. It wasn't salvageable. 3 out of 10.
Song. And what a promising title.
Funky Monks.
Funky motherfuckers will not be told to go.
Just gonna listen to Monks by Frank Ocean. I'm good.
This album brings me so much joy, and I wish I could explain why. My favorite tracks are Sir Psycho Sexy, Breaking the Girl. I'm going to say The Power of Equality, actually. Fuck yeah. I love that song. And I'm going to give this record a 6. And so that gives us a 3-person average of 4.3, which is that has to be it's definitely the lowest average of any album in this retrospective. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I already know there's no way that's going to get topped in this retrospective. So there we are, we've bottomed out. But let us know at home what you think of Blood Sugar Sex Magik. If you think we haven't given it a fair enough shake, we'd love to hear your thoughts and your takes and where you fall on the spectrum that we exist on. So yeah, let us know in the comments below. Next week, a week from the release of this video, our video on YouTube's Achtung Baby will be going up as well, which is sure to be another divisive retrospective video. So stick around for that and look forward to it. And yeah, August, I leave it to you to send us out.
As always, everyone, rock over London, rock on Chicago, Cracker Jacks. The more you eat, the more you want.